The probe data came in during the night shift, and Kang Day almost deleted it, thinking the sensors had broken again. The numbers made no sense at all. He sat in his chair on the bridge of the survey ship, peaceful wanderer, staring at his screen, with tired eyes. After 3 years of mapping empty space and dead rocks, he had seen every kind of sensor malfunction possible. But these readings were different. They were not random static or simple equipment failure. The data was too organized, too detailed, and far too terrifying to be a simple mistake. Kang Day rubbed his eyes and looked again. The numbers had not changed. The probe had found a planet in the Terra 7439 system, orbiting a yellow star that burned with dangerous intensity. According to the data, this world was the most hostile place any survey team had ever discovered. The atmosphere alone would kill most known species in seconds. It contained 21% oxygen, a gas so reactive and corrosive that most civilized worlds kept it locked away in special containers for industrial use only. Kang Day had studied xenobiology for most of his adult life. He had seen creatures that lived in acid pools and beings that breathed methane. He had cataloged life forms that survived in the vacuum of space and others that thrived near the hearts of stars. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for a world where oxygen made up 1/5 of the entire atmosphere. The atmospheric pressure readings were equally impossible. The probe reported pressure levels that would crush most starship hulls, yet somehow this crushing weight was distributed evenly across the entire planet. Any being that tried to walk on this world would be flattened instantly, assuming they survived the toxic air long enough to feel the pressure. Worse still, the surface was covered with a liquid that the probe identified as dihydrogen monoxide. This compound was known throughout the galaxy as one of the most dangerous substances possible. It dissolved nearly everything it touched, conducted electricity, and could change from liquid to gas without warning. Most species use tiny amounts of it in their most secure laboratories, handling it with robotic arms from behind thick barriers. This death world had entire oceans of the stuff. Kang Day scrolled through more data, each reading more frightening than the last. The planet spun on its axis in a wild, unstable pattern that created massive weather systems. Storms raged across the surface with winds that could tear apart buildings. The probe had detected electrical discharges in the atmosphere so powerful they could destroy a small spacecraft. Lightning, the probe called it, and this lightning struck the surface millions of times every day. The geology reports made Kang Day feel sick. The planet's crust was broken into massive pieces that moved constantly, grinding against each other with unimaginable force. Molten rock erupted from cracks in the surface, creating mountains that spewed deadly gases and liquid. Stone. The probe had recorded over 400 active volcanic sites, each one capable of wiping out a major city. Even the planet's position in space was dangerous. It orbited too close to its star, receiving radiation that would cook most life forms. The star itself was unstable, sending out bursts of deadly energy that reached the planet's surface. Any creature trying to live there would be slowly cooked by the constant radiation, assuming it survived everything else. Kang Day saved the data and marked it for immediate review by Commander Velthar. As the senior science officer on the survey mission, Kang Day had seen hundreds of worlds, but nothing like this. This planet was not just hostile to life, it was actively trying to kill anything that came near it. He was about to close the file when something caught his attention. At the bottom of the report, almost hidden in the technical data, was a small note from the probe's artificial intelligence. It read, "Recommendation: immediate quarantine and avoidance protocols. This world exceeds all known danger classifications." The probe was scared. Commander Velthar arrived on the bridge an hour later, his reptilian features showing the concern that Kang Day had felt when reading the data. The commander was old enough to have seen the worst the galaxy had to offer, but he moved with unusual caution as he approached Kang Day's workstation. "Show me," Velthar said simply. Kang Day brought up the probe data on the main screen. The bridge crew gathered around as the readings appeared. Several officers stepped back when they saw the atmospheric composition. Others made the traditional gestures of protection that their species used when facing extreme danger. "This cannot be correct," said Lieutenant Noxera, the ship's geologist. No world could have this much geological activity and still hold together. The atmospheric readings are equally impossible, added Dr. Murthak, who specialized in planetary sciences. This level of oxygen would create constant fires across the entire surface. Commander Velthar studied the data in silence for several minutes. His clawed hands moved across the control panel, checking and rechecking the numbers. Finally, he spoke. Computer, run full diagnostic on probe sensors. Check for any equipment malfunction or data corruption. The ship's computer processed the request quickly. All probe systems functioning normally. Data transmission complete and uncorrupted. Probe remains operational and continues to gather information. Commander, Kang Day said quietly. The probe is still sending data. The readings have been consistent for 6 hours now. Velthar nodded slowly. Then we must accept that this world exists, impossible as it seems. He turned to address the bridge crew. Classification: Terra 7439 is hereby designated as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating in our system. Immediate quarantine protocols are now in effect. No ship is to approach within 10 light-years of this system. The bridge. Crew began implementing the quarantine orders, but Kang Day remained focused on his screen. Something was bothering him about the probe data, something beyond the obviously dangerous conditions. He scrolled through the readings again, looking for whatever had caught his attention. Then he found it. Commander, Kang Day called out, his voice higher than usual. There's something else. Velthar returned to the science station immediately. What is it? The probe has detected electromagnetic signals coming from the planet's surface, Kang Day said, pointing at a section of data he had almost missed. They're artificial, organized. These signals show mathematical patterns and structured communication. The AI bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to look at the main screen where the signal analysis appeared. The patterns were unmistakable, complex, intelligent, and clearly created by advanced technology. Something is alive down there, Dr. Murthak whispered. Something intelligent enough to build communication systems. Commander Velthar stared at the data for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was filled with a mixture of fear and amazement. Alert the Galactic Council immediately, he ordered. We have discovered intelligent life on the most dangerous world in known space. Whatever is living on that planet has somehow found a way to survive in conditions that would destroy our most advanced technology. As the communication went out to the Council, Kang Day continued studying the probe data. The signals from the surface were growing stronger and more complex. Whatever lived on that death world was not just surviving, it was thriving well enough to develop advanced civilization. Though, thought sent a chill through Kang Day's entire body. What kind of beings could live in such a place? What would they be capable of if they ever found a way to leave their world and travel to the stars? For the first time in his career as a xenobiologist, Kang Day hoped they would never find out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted 3 days, and Ambassador Trelnox had never seen the chamber so divided. Representatives from 400 species argued about what to do with the impossible discovery from Terra 7439. Half wanted to flee to the far side of the galaxy, while the other half insisted they had a duty to help whatever poor creatures were trapped on that nightmare world. Trelnox floated above the central podium, her gaseous form shifting colors to indicate deep thought. As the Council's chief diplomat, she had handled first contact situations with dozens of species, but nothing had prepared her for this. The probe data from Terra 7439 suggested that intelligent beings were somehow surviving on a planet that should have killed them instantly. The signals are definitely artificial, reported Chief Science Officer Quindar, his silicon-based body glowing as he accessed the latest data. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and what appears to be basic chemistry. Whatever is sending, these transmissions understands advanced concepts. Captain Zolkar, representing the military concerns of the Insectoid Alliance, clicked his mandibles nervously. We must consider the possibility that these beings have adapted to conditions so extreme that they might be dangerous to the rest of the galaxy. Any creature that can survive on Terra 7439 could potentially be unstoppable if it ever leaves that world. The debate continued for hours, but eventually the council reached a decision. First contact protocols required them to attempt communication with any intelligent species, regardless of the circumstances. However, given the extreme danger of Terra 7439, they would maintain maximum distance and take every possible safety precaution. Ambassador Trellnox was chosen to lead the communication attempt. Her species had evolved as pure energy beings, making them naturally suited for long-distance contact situations. She could transmit messages across vast distances without requiring physical proximity to potentially dangerous worlds. The Council's most advanced communication array was positioned at a safe distance of several light-years from Terra 7439. The first message was carefully crafted to be as universal as possible. Mathematical concepts that any intelligent species should recognize, followed by basic atomic structures, and simple pictograms showing peaceful intentions. The transmission was sent using multiple frequencies and formats, designed to be detectable by any civilization advanced enough to build radio equipment. Then came the waiting. At the distance they were maintaining, even traveling at light speed, it would take years for the message to reach Terra 7439, and years more for any response to return. Dr. Li Huan was working late at the Jodrell Bank Observatory when the first alien transmission reached Earth. He had spent most of his career listening to the stars, hoping to find evidence that humanity was not alone in the universe. The signal that appeared on his instruments that night was unlike anything he had ever seen. The message began with prime numbers, transmitted in a clearly artificial pattern. Dr. Li Huan recognized immediately that this was not natural cosmic radiation or equipment malfunction. Someone or something was trying to communicate with Earth. He called his colleague Kim Nari, who arrived at the observatory within an hour. Together they analyzed the transmission and decoded its mathematical content. The message contained atomic numbers for hydrogen and carbon, basic geometric shapes, and what appeared to be a greeting of some kind. "This is it," Kim Nari whispered as they studied the data. "This is proof that we're not alone." Dr. Li Huan was already preparing Earth's response. Following standard SETI protocols, he crafted a reply that acknowledged the mathematical content and expanded upon it. He included information about Earth's position in the solar system, basic facts about human biology, and descriptions of Earth's environment. As he prepared the transmission details about Earth, Dr. Li Huan included what he considered basic information about the planet's conditions. He described the oxygen-rich atmosphere, the liquid water oceans, the range of temperatures from polar ice to tropical heat, and the dynamic geological activity that shaped the continents. To Dr. Li Huan, these were simply neutral facts about his homeworld. He had no way of knowing that every detail he included was being received by beings who considered such conditions absolutely terrifying. The response from Earth reached the Galactic Council's communication array much sooner than expected. Ambassador Trellnox was reviewing other diplomatic matters when the urgent alert came through. The beings on Terra 7439 had not only received the message, they had responded within their planet's single rotation period. "Impossible," Captain Zolkar stated when he saw the transmission data. "The response time suggests they have advanced communication networks covering their entire planet. How could any species develop such technology while fighting for survival on a death world?" Ambassador Trellnox studied Earth's response with growing amazement and horror. The mathematical content was far more sophisticated than their original message. These beings had not simply acknowledged the greeting, they had improved upon it and added complex proofs that demonstrated advanced understanding of physics and chemistry. But it was the planetary data that truly shocked the diplomatic team. The beings described their world as if it were a pleasant place to live. They mentioned swimming in the corrosive dihydrogen monoxide oceans, climbing mountains where the atmospheric pressure would crush most spacecraft, and living comfortably in the toxic oxygen atmosphere. They describe volcanic activity as if it's a normal part of their environment. Dr. Quindar reported, his silicon form flickering with disbelief. They mention earthquakes and storms as routine weather events. Either these beings are completely insane, or they have somehow adapted to conditions that would kill us instantly. Chief Medical Officer Yaltresh, whose aquatic species came from one of the galaxy's most stable worlds, reviewed the biological data with increasing alarm. According to their transmission, these creatures are made primarily of water, the same corrosive compound that covers their planet's surface. They breathe the toxic oxygen atmosphere and actually require it to survive. Their blood contains iron, one of the most reactive metals in the galaxy. Ambassador Trellnox felt her gaseous form shift to colors indicating deep concern. What kind of evolutionary pressure could create beings adapted to such extreme conditions? The implications were staggering. If the creatures on Terra 7439 considered their death world to be a comfortable home, what would they be capable of surviving? Could there be any environment in the galaxy that would challenge them? We need more information, Ambassador Trellnox decided. Prepare a second transmission. Ask them about their daily lives, their civilization, their technology. We need to understand what we're dealing with. The second message from the Galactic Council was more specific, asking about human society, technology, and daily activities. Dr. Li Huan and Kim Nari worked with teams of linguists and anthropologists to prepare a comprehensive response. They included information about human cities, describing how millions of people lived together in structures that reached hundreds of meters into the toxic atmosphere. They mentioned human transportation systems that moved at speeds that would be considered recklessly dangerous by most galactic species. They described human agriculture, explaining how people deliberately created environments even more challenging than the natural world in order to grow food more efficiently. The response also included cultural information. Humans engaged in activities called sports, where they deliberately put themselves in dangerous situations for entertainment. They had events where people jumped from great heights, raced at deadly speeds, and competed to see who could endure the most extreme physical challenges. When this second transmission reached the Galactic Council, it confirmed their worst fears. The beings on Terra 7439 were not struggling to survive on their death world. They were thriving so completely that they sought out additional challenges for fun. Ambassador Trellnox called another emergency session of the Council. We are dealing with a species that has evolved under conditions so extreme that they view our worst nightmare scenarios as entertainment, she announced to the assembled representatives. They are intelligent, technologically advanced, and apparently unstoppable in any environment. Captain Zolkar's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information. If they ever develop space travel, they could go anywhere in the galaxy. No world would be too dangerous for them, no environment too hostile. But Ambassador Trellnox had noticed something else in the human transmissions, something that gave her hope. Despite their terrifying capabilities, the messages from Earth were consistently friendly, curious, and peaceful. The humans seemed genuinely excited about making contact with other intelligent species, and their transmissions included mathematical expressions that could only be interpreted as offers of friendship and cooperation. Perhaps, she said to the Council, we should be less concerned about what they might do to us and more interested in what they might do for us. Research leader Quindar had spent 6 months studying the probe data from Terra 7439, and every new piece of information made the situation more unbelievable. His silicon-based form glowed brighter as he processed the latest transmissions from the planet the humans called Earth. What he was seeing challenged everything the galaxy understood about the limits of biological life. The probe had been moved closer to Earth, though still maintaining what the Galactic Council considered a safe distance. From this position, it could intercept the electromagnetic communications that constantly flowed around the planet. The humans, it seemed, were broadcasting information about their daily lives without any awareness that alien civilizations were listening. Dr. Nexara, whose aquatic species was considered among the most environmentally sensitive in the galaxy, floated in her specialized tank as she reviewed the latest intercepts. The data makes no sense, she said, her translated voice filled with disbelief. These humans appear to deliberately expose themselves to conditions that would kill our strongest environmental suits. The intercepted communications had come from a human named Cho Min, who was apparently some kind of scientist studying life in Earth's oceans. Her casual descriptions of her work had caused panic among the alien research team. She spoke of diving to depths where the water pressure would crush most starships, swimming among creatures that she described as dangerous predators, and working in underwater environments for extended periods. "Listen to this," Dr. Nexara said, playing back one of Cho Min's educational broadcasts. She describes descending to what they call the abyssal zone, where the pressure is over 1,000 times their surface atmosphere. She says this casually, as if it's a routine scientific procedure. Quindar accessed the technical data that accompanied Cho Min's transmissions. According to her descriptions, humans regularly descended to ocean depths that would instantly compress most alien vessels into tiny balls of metal. They did this using simple mechanical devices and breathing apparatus that seemed impossibly primitive by galactic standards. Even more disturbing was Cho Min's description of the creatures that lived in Earth's oceans. She spoke of massive predators with razor-sharp teeth, creatures that could generate powerful electrical discharges, and life forms that were toxic to touch. Yet she described swimming among them as if it were perfectly normal. She mentioned something called great white sharks, Quindar reported to his team. According to her data, these are apex predators with bite forces that could snap our probe in half. She describes them as magnificent and beautiful. She has apparently swum with them, voluntarily multiple times. The alien research team was still processing this information when they intercepted communications from another human, named Yun-Jae. His transmissions were even more concerning because they seemed to be personal messages rather than scientific reports. Yun-Jae was apparently documenting his recreational activities for friends and family. His latest transmission showed video footage of himself climbing what humans called Mount Everest. The probe's analysis of the mountain showed conditions that would be fatal to most known species. Atmospheric pressure so low that most beings would suffocate instantly, temperatures that would freeze bodily fluids, and radiation levels from the thin atmosphere that would cause cellular damage within minutes. "Look at this," Dr. Nexara said, displaying Yun-Jae's video on the main screen. "He's climbing this mountain for fun. He describes it as challenging but enjoyable. The environmental conditions would kill me in seconds, even in my protective suit." But Yun-Jae's mountain climbing was only the beginning. His other transmissions showed him engaging in activities that the aliens could barely comprehend. He had sent videos of himself jumping from aircraft and falling through the atmosphere at tremendous speeds, before deploying a primitive parachute. He had recorded himself surfing on waves in Earth's corrosive oceans during what appeared to be a massive storm. Most shocking of all was footage of Yun-Jae visiting what he called an active volcano. The video showed him standing near pools of molten rock, breathing the toxic volcanic gases, and describing the experience as exciting and beautiful. The temperature readings from the probe indicated that the area around the volcano should have killed him instantly. "He's standing next to liquid rock," Quindar said, his form flickering with patterns that indicated extreme confusion. The radiant heat alone should have cooked him from the inside out. But he appears comfortable, even relaxed. The research team spent days analyzing Yun-Jae's recreational activities, each one more impossible than the last. He had transmitted videos of himself diving from high cliffs into the ocean, racing vehicles at speeds that would be considered suicidal by most galactic species, and participating in combat sports, where humans deliberately tried to injure each other for entertainment. Dr. Nexara pulled up the environmental data for each of Yun-Jae's activities. Every single thing this human does for fun would be classified as an extreme survival situation by our emergency protocols. He seeks out danger as if it were pleasure. The implications were staggering. If humans considered these activities to be recreational, what would they consider to be actually dangerous? What challenges could possibly push them to their limits? The answer came in another intercepted transmission, this one from a human named Kim Bora who worked in what she called emergency rescue services. Her communications described situations where humans helped each other survive what they termed natural disasters. Kim Bora's reports included rescues during earthquakes that would level most galactic cities, floods that would be considered planet-wide, catastrophes and fires that burned at temperatures hot enough to melt spacecraft hulls. She described these events as challenging but manageable parts of her job. She mentions rescuing people from a burning building, Quindar reported. According to the environmental data, the interior temperature was hot enough to vaporize water, instantly. She went inside repeatedly to bring people to safety. She describes it as a successful rescue operation. The alien research team was beginning to realize that their initial assessment of Terra 7439 as a death world might have been incomplete. It was not just a death world, it was a death world that had somehow produced a species that thrived under conditions that would destroy advanced civilizations. Dr. Nexara made a disturbing calculation. Based on these transmissions, humans don't just survive in extreme environments, they actively seek out more extreme conditions than their planet naturally provides. They have created artificial environments that are even more dangerous than their natural habitat. The probe data confirmed this analysis. Human cities were built in locations that would be considered uninhabitable by most species, on fault lines where the ground regularly shifted and cracked, in areas prone to massive storms and near active volcanoes. Rather than avoiding dangerous areas, humans seemed drawn to them. Even more concerning was evidence that humans modified their environment to make it more challenging. They built structures that reached impossible heights into their toxic atmosphere, created transportation systems that moved at deadly speeds, and developed technologies that harnessed the destructive forces of their planet for their own use. Quindar compiled his findings into a report that would forever change how the galaxy viewed Terra 7439 and its inhabitants. The humans were not victims struggling to survive on a hostile world. They were a species so perfectly adapted to extreme conditions that their home planet's natural dangers had become their entertainment. Recommendation, Quindar wrote in his report to the Galactic Council, humans should be classified as an environmental extremophile species with capabilities that exceed our current understanding of biological limits. They represent either the greatest threat or the greatest potential ally the galaxy has ever encountered. As he submitted the report, Quindar wondered which assessment would prove to be correct. The intercepted communications from Earth suggested that humans were genuinely friendly and interested in peaceful contact with other species, but their casual mastery of conditions that would destroy most civilizations made them potentially the most powerful beings the galaxy had ever known. The question was no longer whether humans could survive contact with galactic civilization, but whether galactic civilization could survive contact with humans. Admiral Korthagul had commanded starships through 3 galactic wars and survived encounters with space pirates, cosmic storms, and the notorious crystal entities of the Vega system. But nothing in his long military career had prepared him for the terror he felt as his heavily armored diplomatic vessel approached the Terra 7439 system. The ship Galactic Unity was the most advanced vessel in the fleet, designed to withstand conditions that would destroy lesser craft. Its shields could deflect asteroid impacts, its hull could survive direct hits from plasma cannons, and its environmental systems could keep the crew alive in the vacuum of space for years. Yet Admiral Korthagul knew that all of this technology might not be enough to protect them from whatever lived on the death world ahead. Envoy Siltheta floated near the command center, her energy-based form shifting through colors that indicated extreme nervousness. As the galaxy's most experienced diplomat for dangerous first contact situations, she had volunteered for this mission despite the obvious risks. Her species could survive in almost any environment by converting their physical forms to pure energy, but even she was uncertain about what they might encounter. Maintain position at twice lunar distance, Admiral Korthagul ordered, as they reached what the galactic safety protocols considered the minimum safe approach to Terra 7439. Deploy all scanning equipment and wait for the humans to make contact. The plan was simple and cautious. Hover at maximum safe distance and wait for the humans to launch whatever primitive spacecraft they possessed. Based on the intercepted communications, human space technology appeared to be extremely basic, probably requiring days or weeks to reach the diplomatic vessel. This would give the alien crew time to study human capabilities and prepare for the actual meeting. Captain Bei Jun received the notification of alien contact while he was conducting routine maintenance on the Korean Space Force's newest vessel, Harmony. The sleek craft represented the cutting edge of human space technology, designed for rapid response and long-distance missions. When the call came from Earth's newly formed First Contact Committee, Beijun was ready to launch within hours. Ambassador, Songhai had been chosen to represent humanity in this historic meeting. Her background in linguistics and cultural studies combined with her calm personality made her the ideal choice for first contact with an alien civilization. As she boarded Harmony for the journey to the alien vessel, she felt excited rather than nervous about the opportunity to meet beings from another world. Remember, Dr. Li Huan told her during the final briefing, they seem to be maintaining a very large distance from Earth. They might be cautious about our environment or our technology. Try to be reassuring and demonstrate that we come in peace. Ambassador. Songhai nodded and settled into her seat as Captain Beijun prepared for departure. The flight to the alien vessel would take several hours, giving her time to review the linguistic protocols and cultural information that Earth scientists had prepared. Admiral Korth Agul was reviewing defensive systems when his sensor officer reported an impossible reading. Sir, we're detecting a craft approaching from Terra 7439. Estimated arrival time, 4 hours. 4 hours? The Admiral's cybernetic implants processed this information with growing alarm. Confirm that reading. No primitive spacecraft could cover that distance so quickly. The sensor readings were confirmed and rechecked, but the results remained the same. The human vessel was approaching at speeds that indicated advanced propulsion technology, far beyond what the intercepted communications had suggested. Even more concerning, the craft was small enough to house only a few individuals. Yet it was traveling through space with no apparent concern for the dangers of cosmic radiation or debris impacts. Envoy Sil Theta shifted to colors indicating deep concern. If their small craft can travel at these speeds, what might their military vessels be capable of? As Harmony approached the alien vessel, Captain Beijun followed standard docking procedures that had been adapted from space station protocols. The alien ship was enormous compared to human craft, its hull covered with what appeared to be heavy armor and defensive systems. Despite its intimidating appearance, the vessel's docking signals were peaceful and welcoming. They're much larger than we expected, Ambassador Songhai observed as they drew closer. Their technology looks very advanced but also very heavily armored. They might be more afraid of us than we are of them. Admiral Korthagul watched in amazement as the small human craft docked with his vessel with casual precision. The piloting required for such a maneuver was beyond what most of his own crew could accomplish, yet the humans made it look effortless. When the docking clamps engaged and the airlock sealed, he realized that the humans were about to board his ship. Environmental status report, he ordered immediately. Atmosphere is adjusted to minimum toxicity levels as planned, his science officer reported. Temperature is at the upper limit of safe ranges for most species. Gravity is set to standard galactic levels. The Admiral had ordered these environmental settings as a compromise between safety and comfort. The atmosphere contained minimal amounts of dangerous gases. The temperature was warm but not deadly, and the gravity was strong enough to demonstrate respect for physical beings without being crushing. It should be tolerable for most known species, though still somewhat challenging. Ambassador Songhai stepped through the airlock and immediately felt comfortable in the alien vessel's environment. The air was clean and fresh, the temperature was pleasantly warm, and the gravity felt normal. She removed her spacesuit helmet and breathed deeply, smiling as she realized that the aliens had gone to great trouble to make their ship welcoming for human visitors. Admiral Korthagul felt his cybernetic systems overload briefly when the human ambassador removed her protective equipment and began breathing his ship's atmosphere without any apparent discomfort. The environmental conditions that he had set as barely tolerable compromises seemed to be perfectly comfortable for her. "Greetings," Ambassador Songhai said in carefully prepared galactic standard language that Earth's linguists had constructed from the alien transmissions. "I am Songhai, representing the people of Earth. We are honored to meet you and grateful for your warm welcome." Envoy Sil Theta shifted to colors indicating amazement as she realized that the human was not only comfortable in their carefully controlled environment, but actually seemed to prefer it to her own protective equipment. "Welcome aboard," she managed to reply. "I am Sil Theta of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps. The formal greetings continued as Ambassador Song Hai was escorted to the ship's main conference room. The alien crew members they passed all stared in fascination and fear as she walked casually through their vessel, completely at ease in an environment that most of them found challenging, even with their own species' adaptations. "Your ship is beautiful," Ambassador Song Hai commented as they toured the vessel. "The temperature and atmosphere are very comfortable. You've been very considerate hosts." Admiral Korthagul exchanged glances with Envoy Sil Theta. The human was describing their carefully maintained minimal toxicity environment as comfortable and pleasant. If this was her reaction to conditions that pushed the limits of galactic safety standards, what must her home planet be like? The formal first contact meeting took place in the ship's most secure conference room, with full diplomatic protocols and recording systems active. Ambassador Song Hai spoke enthusiastically about human civilization, describing Earth's cultures, technologies, and peaceful intentions toward other species. Her excitement about learning alien languages and customs was genuine and infectious. "We have so much to learn from each other," she said, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Earth has many different cultures and languages. We would love to share our knowledge and learn about your civilizations." As the meeting progressed, the alien crew began to relax slightly. Despite their terrifying capabilities, the humans seemed genuinely peaceful and interested in cooperation rather than conquest. Ambassador Song Hai's warmth and enthusiasm gradually overcame their initial fear, though the underlying awe at human capabilities remained. "Your journey here was very impressive," Envoy Sil Theta commented carefully. "Your spacecraft technology appears quite advanced." Ambassador Song Hai laughed. "Thank you, though I'm sure our technology seems primitive compared to yours. Captain Beijun is an excellent pilot, but that was just a routine flight for him. We're hoping that contact with your civilization will help us improve our capabilities." The alien crew exchanged more glances. If the human considered that demonstration of advanced piloting and propulsion to be routine and primitive, what were they capable of when they really tried? As the meeting concluded and Ambassador Song Hai prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Korthagul realized that first contact had succeeded beyond all expectations, but not for the reasons he had anticipated. The humans were not the unstoppable death world predators that the galaxy had feared. They were genuinely friendly neighbors who happened to be adapted to conditions that would destroy most civilizations. The question now was not whether humanity would threaten galactic peace, but whether galactic civilization was ready to accept neighbors who could casually survive anything the universe threw at them. 6 months after first contact, Dr. Lim Su stood at the edge of Mount Kilauea's active crater, calmly explaining volcanic geology to a group of alien scientists who watched from what they considered a barely safe distance. The Galactic Scientific Exchange Program had become the most popular and terrifying educational opportunity in known space, with applications from researchers across hundreds of worlds. "The lava temperature here is approximately 1200 degrees Celsius, Dr. Lim Su said into her communication device, which transmitted her words to the alien observers hovering in their heavily shielded research vessel several kilometers away. "This is actually quite moderate for an active volcano. The gases we're breathing include sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, which create the distinctive smell you might detect through your atmospheric sensors." Director Yexnul, who had initially opposed any contact with the Death World humans, now found himself leading one of the largest scientific expeditions in galactic history. His species had evolved in carefully controlled underground caverns, and the very idea of standing on an unstable planetary surface had once filled him with terror. Now he watched in fascination as Dr. Lim Su casually collected lava samples using simple metal tools. "How is she not dying?" asked Dr. Fintalar, whose crystalline species required precise environmental conditions to maintain their molecular structure. "The radiant heat alone should be cooking her internal organs." Dr. Lim Su heard the question through her communication link and laughed. "The heat is noticeable but not dangerous at this distance. We're maintaining safe protocols and monitoring air quality constantly. This is actually perfect weather for volcano research, clear skies and minimal wind." The alien scientists had been studying Earth for months now, and each day brought new revelations about human capabilities. What they had initially classified as the galaxy's most dangerous death world was revealing itself to be a natural laboratory for extreme environment research, with humans serving as willing guides to conditions that had previously been considered impossible to study. Park Tae had become something of a legend throughout galactic space after his third successful rescue operation, in conditions that should have killed everyone involved. His latest mission had taken him to a mining facility on Kepler 442b, where equipment failure had trapped alien workers in what their species considered a lethal environment. The planet's surface temperature of -40 degrees Celsius, combined with an atmosphere containing 12% oxygen, had created conditions that the local rescue teams could not handle. Their environmental suits had failed within hours, and the trapped miners faced certain death before help could arrive from their homeworld. Park Tae had arrived with basic cold weather gear and a simple breathing apparatus, treating the rescue as a routine mountain operation similar to those he had performed countless times on Earth. To the amazement of the alien authorities, he had worked for 18 straight hours in conditions that would have killed most galactic citizens in minutes, successfully evacuating all 37 trapped miners. The temperature was challenging but manageable, Park Tae reported to the Galactic Emergency Response Coordination Center. The oxygen levels were actually quite helpful, much higher than what we're used to at high altitude on Earth. The miners were in good condition once we got them moving and warmed up. Counselor Won-mi reviewed the rescue reports as she prepared her address to the Galactic Assembly. As Earth's representative to the galactic government, she had spent months helping other species understand that humans were not the terrifying death world predators they had initially appeared to be, but rather natural allies for dealing with the universe's most challenging environments. The rescue statistics are remarkable, she said to her aide as they walked toward the assembly chamber. Human teams have successfully completed rescue operations in 17 different extreme environments over the past 6 months. Each one was classified as impossible by local authorities. The aide, a nervous aquatic being named Mekthara, floated in her mobile life support tank as she reviewed the data. The psychological impact has been even more significant than the practical results. Knowing that humans can survive in these conditions has changed how the entire galaxy thinks about environmental challenges. Counselor Won-mi nodded as they entered the assembly chamber. The vast hall contained representatives from over 400 species, each adapted to different environmental conditions, and each viewing the universe through the lens of their own limitations. The proposal she was about to present would challenge many of their fundamental assumptions about what was possible. Honored representatives, Counselor Won-mi began as she took the central podium. 6 months ago, your probe data classified Earth as a Class 12 death world, unsuitable for intelligent life. Today, I propose that Earth serve as the galaxy's first universal environmental training center and extreme condition refuge. The assembly chamber erupted in discussion as species representatives considered the implications. Several delegates from environmentally sensitive worlds appeared genuinely shocked by the proposal, while others from more adaptable species showed immediate interest. Earth's natural conditions provide training opportunities for environmental challenges that occur throughout the galaxy, Counselor Won-mi continued. Our volcanic regions can prepare rescue teams for high-temperature emergencies. Our polar areas offer experience with extreme cold and low-pressure situations. Our oceans provide training for high-pressure and limited visibility rescue operations. Director Ba Yexnel, who had initially feared human contact, now stood to support the proposal. The scientific advances we have achieved through Earth-based research have exceeded our greatest expectations. Humans have guided our teams through environmental studies that were previously impossible. They have shown us that conditions we considered absolutely lethal can be not only survivable, but productive for research. The debate continued for hours as representatives discussed the practical and philosophical implications of the proposal. Some worried about the safety of having so many species visit such a dangerous world, while others expressed concern about humanity's growing influence in galactic affairs. Captain Zolkar, who had initially viewed humans as a potential threat, now spoke in favor of the proposal from a military perspective. Human rescue capabilities have already saved lives that would have been lost under our previous protocols. Their environmental adaptability makes them ideal partners for emergency response situations throughout the galaxy. The vote was closer than expected, but the proposal passed with support from 2/3 of the assembly. Earth would officially become the galaxy's first universal environmental training center, with facilities for extreme condition research, rescue training, and refugee assistance for species whose homeworlds had become uninhabitable. As the assembly session concluded, Councillor Wan Mi reflected on how dramatically perspectives had changed. 6 months earlier, the galaxy had viewed Earth as an impossible death world harboring potentially dangerous beings. Now it was seen as a valuable resource that could help all species expand their environmental capabilities and survival skills. Dr. Lim Su concluded her volcano research demonstration as the alien scientific vessel prepared to return to their home system. The researchers had gathered more data about extreme geological conditions in 6 months than they had collected in centuries of remote observation. More importantly, they had learned that environments they had considered absolutely impossible might actually be manageable with proper training and human guidance. "Thank you for this opportunity," Director Yexnul transmitted to Dr. Lim Su as his ship departed. "Your world has taught us that our understanding of environmental limits was far too narrow. We look forward to sending more research teams to learn from your expertise." As Earth's first alien research expedition departed, dozens more were already scheduled to arrive. Applications for the Environmental Training Center had exceeded all expectations, with research teams, rescue specialists, and even tourists requesting opportunities to experience conditions that had once been considered fatal. Park Tae received notification of his next assignment as he reviewed the rescue equipment inventory. A passenger ship had experienced life support failure near a planet, with conditions similar to Earth's high-altitude deserts: low atmospheric pressure, extreme temperature variations, and intense radiation. The local authorities had declared the situation hopeless, but Park Tae was already planning the rescue operation as if it were a routine camping trip. The irony was not lost on any of the human coordinators. The planet that the galaxy had initially classified as its most dangerous, Deathworld had become its most important sanctuary for environmental research and emergency training. Earth's impossible conditions, which had once terrified alien civilizations, were now seen as valuable training opportunities that could save lives throughout the galaxy. As new alien students arrived at Earth University's newly constructed extreme environment campus, human children played in the background, completely unaware that their daily playground was considered a barely survivable training ground by most of the galaxy.